With a new era officially set to begin in Chicago, with the new front office coming in tow, one of the questions is what's their roster building thought process going to be? Are they going to want to do it slowly and more organically, or are they willing to make a big splash trade early on? Well, today's episode, we have an article from Jed Patagon in regards to the Bulls making a splash move for Zion Williamson to start off the new era. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Billy Donovan is apparently going to have a lot of suitors if he decides to leave the Chicago Bulls, including the Orlando Magic. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off with this article from Jed Patagon, who wrote an article talking about the Chicago Bulls' new front office potentially making a big splash trade early on to kind of set the tone and bring in star power. There's no doubt one of the biggest things that the Bulls have been lacking over the AKME era outside of functional, intelligent moves was star power. The closest thing they had to star acquisition was probably DeMar DeRozan, who broke Wilt records and had a great run with the Chicago Bulls, but was never really that transcendent star for the Bulls. No doubt that he rose the floor for the Bulls and he elevated them and won a lot of games for this team, but it never really got us to the place of really, the true star power that fit a timeline or anything like that. He was well over 30 in regards to that, and it was just hard and difficult to build a forward thought process with that, right? Like the Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan teams, they each had, pretty good seasons individually, but it was just never really cohesive, right? So in this thought process, it's not just about acquiring a star. It's about also acquiring a star that fits, gives you enough runway, and leaves you enough flexibility as well to continue to add to the team and really become that championship team. So in this case, right, Jed Patagon, which is the writer here, and I'll link the article down below, wrote an article in regards for the Bulls buying low on the star in Zion Williamson. Now, this is a name that's been mentioned a lot for the Chicago Bulls over the last handful of years. Like we've all seen it. There was potential talk of Zion being able to be moved, for matching salary and expiring picks, leading into the trade deadline. Then that rumor ended up changing, and Zion was not moved. I think there's no doubt now too when you look at if the Pelicans really do want to make a shift with their roster, they're in a place now where they can legitimately do so, right? Like we heard Herb Jones could be there, Trey Murphy, we heard that he could be available, but you look at what they're building. Jeremiah Fears, a young player there. Derek Queen, a young player there. Yves Missy, a young player there. Herb Jones and Trey Murphy as well are fairly young. And then they even had Sadiq Bey really step up a lot this season. So does Zion Williamson actually fit their future? And are they now ready to move on because they have built a nice young crop of players, that they can do some stuff with? Now, it sucks that they gave up their first round pick in this draft to get Derek Queen because this ended up being a very deep draft. But, it is what it is there. So Zion, as a player, right? Let's just talk about Zion. And first, let's talk about the deal. Let's talk about the offer here that's presented in this article. And it's the Chicago Bulls trading Patrick Williams, Jalen Smith, Trey Jones for a 2026 first-round pick from Portland, right? That's protected 1 through 14. We know if that pick's protected until 2028, right? So that pick can convey anytime between now and 2028. There it turns into a second-round pick. A 2027 second round, a 2028 second round, and a 2029 second round pick. So you basically are getting Zion Williamson for P. Will, Jalen, Trey, 1 first round pick, and then 3 second round picks is basically the way that's working out. And then you get Zion straight up for that. Is that enough, right? Now, Zion Williamson as a player, let's just be clear. When Zion's on the court, there's no doubt that Zion is a transcendent player. There's just no doubt about it. 21 points per game this season, 5.7 rebounds, 3.2 assists that he did, 1 steal a game as well, right? And he shoots the ball 60% from the field this season, 25% from 3. You look at it over his career stats, he's averaging 23 points per game for his career, almost 24 at 23.8, 59% shooting from the field and 32% shooting from 3. The problem with Zion is the number of games played. He did play 62 games so far this season, 30 games the year before that, 70 the year before that, 29 the year before that, 61 the year before that, and 24 his rookie year. So Zion's only had 3 seasons his entirety of his career where he's played over 60 games, one of those seasons where he played over 70 games. That's the buy low part of it, right? Because, you have an opt-out at the end of every year of Zion's contract because of his health. So if he doesn't meet certain requirements, you can opt out of the contract. So the financial part of it isn't that big of a deal. The players that you're giving up here is P. Will. Bulls fans would throw P. Will in a trade for Portillo, so that's not there. Trey Jones and Jalen Smith, though, 2 really key vets that have played really big roles for the Chicago Bulls. And I think that, while you're getting Zion and the star power potentially there, I don't think those are just marginal moves, because I think they go over to the Pelicans, you could very well see those guys fitting in and helping support what those young players are doing, and now you're giving veterans to that team. The Portland pick in this, right? The way that I look at it is that if the Portland pick does convey at the end of this year, because we'll know before a trade's able to go down if the pick does convey. If it does, it's 15th in a deep draft. Are you willing to give that up, as well as 3 second-round picks and the players that we talked about, to acquire a player that can average over 20 points per game? Right? Like, I'm fine with buying low on Zion. I'd be even more fine if Zion was a free agent and the Bulls decided to, hey, we're going to go on a shorter term 2, maybe 3-year deal here for Zion to see. The problem that I look at it with is that, and this is a little bit of my Bulls fan PTSD, is that every time the Bulls have traded or acquired a player that already came in with long injury history, it's never really worked out for the Chicago Bulls. It's never worked out in that case for us, right? Zoe didn't work out. Jalen didn't work out. Jabari Parker didn't work out for the Chicago Bulls. Otto Porter Jr. didn't work out with his injury for the Chicago Bulls. It just does not work out for the Chicago Bulls. The closest thing that we had to it is Zach LaVine, who tore his ACL, but then came back as an even more athletic player and really rounded out his game and became a more well-rounded offensive player here. But it's been so many cases, and it would be different if it was just one injury for Zion. Like, it's a lot of them, right? And then, you have the questions about his love of the game and how much he stays locked in the offseason and stuff like that. So it's that part of it, right? And then the thought process as well is that, do you want to rush it immediately? Like, do you want to immediately put all your chips on the table, and do you want to rush it? And that's another question in the thought process here, potentially of a new front office. Now, I've said it before. I've told you guys as well. Don't be surprised if a new doesn't evaluate players the same way that we view them, right? And so the cost of that, I think Zion would fit well with Modest and Josh Giddey. I think Modest's growth as a 3-point shooter, Josh Giddey's ability to throw Zion lobs would be great, right? It is buy low, but I think it's the cost versus the long-term build timeline on that, right? So the question then becomes about, do you build through the draft, or do you want to take shortcuts early on? One of the things that AK did was he kind of tried to do both, right? He drafted Patrick Williams early on at number 4 overall. Even though Patrick Williams didn't end up working out, he didn't know that at the time. He then also accelerated the timeline by trading a lot of young pieces and future picks to get Nikola Vucevic in here, and then traded another first-round pick to get DeMar DeRozan. We end up getting that pick back, but in a signing trade, you do that for DeMar, and then you sign, like, the signings of Alex Caruso and Zoe, those felt like within the timeline, right, of scenario of the Bulls. The DeMar and Vooch signing trades and trade, that was the acceleration of the timeline, right? And it ended up not working. I do think there's an importance to patience, but there's also an importance to setting a foundation. And maybe you view that as doing that. I think all this comes down to, first, the Bulls have to know where their draft pick is going to land. Because if you do get lucky and get into the top 4, which I know a lot of Bulls fans are going to automatically say, Haize, we're not getting into the top 4. Let's stop that, all that type of stuff. And you could very well be right on that. I'm not even going to say that you're wrong in that. You could very well be right. But if they do get into the top 4, then I think that betting on one of those players to become your star and doing so more organically over time makes sense. But if you do stay at 9 or 10 and you get the Portland pick and you're able to make a trade like that for Zion, do you do that? I mean, you still keep your flexibility in that case because you're trading those players, so you can still go after a Walker Kessler or Peyton Watson, which you probably wouldn't want to do Peyton Watson at that point, but a Ben Mathurin or somebody else. So you can still do those type of things. Isaiah Hartenstein could be a unrestricted free agent by that time. You got Mark Williams, who's out there on the market. You got those things that you could do, right? And so it's just the two-mind part of it. We do need a foundational star, right? Eventually, you have to have that guy if you truly want to be an actual contender. You can be a damn solid team. You can be a solid playoff team. You can be a team that goes on playoff runs without that. But typically, to really get over that hump and to be a true championship contender, you do need a foundational star. So it's the warring mindsets in regards to that. And it'll be interesting to see what that new front office's view on that type of stuff is. Do they want to come in and be patient? Now, we know from Michael Reinsdorf, the thing that he said in that press conference is that they want to win, but they want to win if it's sustainable, right? And he also talked about the practicing patience, right? But then we heard that AK and Marcus Everly said that, it was ownership that was hesitant to go into a full reset. So you have all these things that are going to be here and be footnotes and be talked about, rightfully so. But it's just looked at it as like, okay, well, like what happens next? Like what's the goal here, right? So Zion Giddey could form a really good two-man game. Miles Buzelis, I could see playing off the gravity that Zion Williamson brings, right, and how that actually frees him up a little bit more to shoot from the outside. I think you will have to allow Zion to shoot middies, right? Like you have to allow him to attack from the mid-range. And so the thing also with the Bulls and the DeMar, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic is that you got DeMar and you got Vooch, and both of them basically started their offense from the same spots, would clog things up. You don't necessarily have that problem with Modest, Giddey, and Zion Williamson. Now, who you draft, if you draft like a Braden Burries at number 9, who's a defense and a three-point shooter as well, you got even more spacing for Zion to get to work. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that it can't work. It's just, it's interesting to watch what's going to happen here, right? And I think it still goes all back to the same thing, is that this front office is going to kind of have a lot of latitude to do what they want to do. The direct quote from ownership: we do give a lot of autonomy to our people, but that doesn't mean that they can make any decision they want. Our job is to ask the right questions and push back when needed. It shouldn't be, okay, we hired you now, and now we are done. We're going to go off and see you in a few years, and hopefully we are good. We've got to ask the right questions, challenge, look at other situations, and ask a lot of questions. I need to do a much better job at that. So what that said to me is that basically Michael is realizing what he did with AK. He hired AK, and he basically let AK work and then checked in every couple of years. It seems like Michael Reinsdorf is going to want to have more checks and balances. He's going to want to have more of a hand-in-hand relationship with the next guy running the front office so that they can check in and say, all right, bet, these are the things that went right. These are the things that went wrong. What's the plan to fix the things that went wrong? Congrats on the things that went right. And how much closer are we to getting to our goals, right? And that's what an ownership group should do. I believe some of the best relationships of owner to president or GM, whoever's doing it, is that you trust them to do their job. Yes, they do. Every job has structure. Every job has things that they can and can't do, but you trust them to trust the basketball people to do the basketball things. And if you see that they aren't in alignment with what your communicated goals for the franchise were, that's when you have to get involved in that, step in as the ownership and do things. Now, the question for many people, and they're asking, is that, is more ownership involvement actually more scary to get things done? Especially when you factor in the Billy Donovan dilemma, which we've talked about multiple times. I'm not diving into that again. We'll talk about Billy Donovan and some suitors, but we're not going to get into the Billy Donovan dilemma. But it's just the Bulls have been very poorly ran as an organization for far too long, right? And if Michael is going to be more hands-on, if Michael is going to be more aware and realize, hey, I need to do a better job at my part of this job, right, to support and to make sure that we are guiding along the path rather than just, hey, where are we at? It just seems like to me, it's not as simple as Jerry's did the check clear. Michael seems like he's ready to be more so of, okay, the checks are clear and cool, but where are we at as far as this path to get back to actually being a championship team? And if he ends up holding true to that, great. I think that's what we all want to see. That's what we all deserve, and that could be the best relationship possible. So, we'll see. And I do think like that with Billy, if Billy Donovan does stay here, which we'll know that decision Monday. It's Friday. We're only a few days away. We have a game today. We have a game Sunday. The season's done. The season's over with. The season is done at that point. And so we then could focus more on knowing exactly what's the coaching search going to look like. The reason why I cut back on coaching search candidates videos is because now we have front office stuff to worry about, right? And we don't know if Billy's going to stay or not. But once that's open, and I think, if Billy does decide to step away, then, we can have kind of more conversations with that. But to get back to this, I want to hear from you guys on this one, though. When you hear things like this, that the Chicago Bulls could accelerate the timeline, go out after a buy low star like Zion Williamson, Is that something that you would be willing to do, or do you want to see it be done more organically? Now, in this trade that was presented, the Bulls would not be giving up any of their own first-round picks. But there is a benefit for that. And since the Portland pick is lottery protected anyway, maybe you're viewing it that way. But I want to hear from you guys. I think the way that I expect this to go is probably hearing a mixed bag of responses between people that are like, oh yeah, go get Zion now. He's a star. Go get that now. You need that guy now. He's transcendent when he's on the court. We'll worry about the injuries later. I think you're going to get a mix of people as well. They're like, Zion is such a big risk. Like, do we need to take that right now? Right? Like, I wouldn't be mad if the Bulls like go through a year where they draft this. Even if they get the Portland pick, they keep that Portland pick. They draft a player with that Portland pick. And then they use the year to really evaluate and say, okay, this mix of players that we have, Josh, Modest, Noah, potentially 2 picks out of the first round this year, a second round pick, how they play with Trey and Jalen and the veterans, and then say, okay, this is where we really feel like this team could go, but we can get there a little bit faster if we do this, right? I'm not, it's going to be, that's the funnest part about a new front office coming in, is because you can see very aggressive or you can see a slow burn. Either can really lead to success if you do it right, but you got to take all things into consideration. And with the Bulls having the cap space that they are this year too, I can understand the front office saying, hey, we may not have this cap space again in 3 years to be able to absorb a contract like this and not really have to match it, or also have the ability, even if they send out matching salary in the Zion move, you then have the cap space in free agency to then, like, if you go into free agency with Zion, Josh Giddey, Modest, Buzelis, is that more attractive to a Walker Kessler and Isaiah Hartenstein to want to come here? Because now there is that star there. You just got to see if he's going to stay healthy. So let me know what you guys think on all of that. It's a lot of different permutations, a lot of different views that can go into it. Let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. And do you think Michael wanting to be a little bit more hands-on is a good thing or a bad thing? And keep in mind, the Bulls ownership has been very hands-off over the years, even though people like to blame them for everything going on with the Bulls. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, man, I want to talk a little bit about Billy Donovan, right? There is now more and more rumors popping up that Billy Donovan could be in line for a number of jobs if he does decide to walk away from the Chicago Bulls. Now, we have heard that Billy Donovan, if he does walk away, wants to take a year off. Then the UNC thing popped up, and it put a different perspective on that. But Billy Donovan didn't completely shut that down, which says to me that maybe there is some thought process behind maybe just going right back into a different head coaching situation. So Brett Siegel, in his article, talked about Jamal Mosley, and he being one of the coaches that are on the hot seat heading into this offseason. And he said this in regards to that opening in Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan, there are going to be several teams out there that check in with him about potentially taking over their head coaching vacancy. We could potentially see 6, 7, maybe even 8 jobs open up this year in the summer for new head coaches in this league. So he did reiterate as well that the Bulls, of course, want to keep Billy Donovan. That's something that, as Bulls fans, we all know. The Bulls want to keep Billy Donovan. But the fact that the Magic have a roster that, people really looked at and was like, this is a roster that is going to be competing for Eastern Conference Finals. And then they have not. They've been pretty much disappointing, right? Paolo Banchero hasn't really made that true superstar leap at all that people had thought about. But then you don't have the roster around him, right? The shooting has always been a Achilles heel of the Orlando Magic. As good as their defense has been, their offense has been really stagnant. The question then becomes about, could they really make a hard press for Billy Donovan? Here's the thing that I will say this. Even if Billy Donovan talks to the Chicago Bulls ownership and says, hey, I think I'm going to step away from this job. I do have interest in getting back into head coaching. If you can find a trade for me, I'll be willing to do that, because people, don't forget, you can trade head coaches. So with Billy Donovan just recently signing an extension, could you potentially trade Billy Donovan if he tells you, hey, I want to walk away from this Bull situation. I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me, but I kind of want to walk away and just go someplace that you guys are in the middle of a restart. I really kind of want to go somewhere else where I can try to win now. Would the Bulls be willing to do a trade in that case? Now, typically in coaches' trades, you don't get a whole lot back unless that coach is like a legit championship level coach and done that for a while. But it'll just be an interesting standpoint, because at that point, then you're trading. You're probably gaining another asset, no matter where it is. And then you can go back into the draft. Like that's a possibility too. And keep in mind, if that's going to happen pretty quickly after the offseason ends. So we'll see what happens with that. It'll be fun to watch and interesting to watch, how Billy Donovan's decision really does impact the further decisions that need to be made already this offseason, because there are a lot. And there are a lot of decisions that have to be made. And we got to see if the Bulls are going to make that in the way that they need to, right? So Let me know what you guys think on that. Like hearing that 8 to 10 coaching vacancies could come open. The Dallas Mavericks job's one. The Brooklyn Nets job's one. The Orlando Magic job is one that's been rumored. The Milwaukee Bucks job with Doc Rivers talking about possibly retiring. Like there's a lot of jobs around the NBA that could very well open up. And those teams could pivot towards wanting to bring in a Hall of Fame veteran coach like Billy Donovan. And if that does happen, could the Bulls take advantage of that if Billy's already communicated to him that he's going to step away? So let me know what you guys think on that. It's just an interesting thing to watch. There's going to be so many different angles and possibilities to watch in this Bulls offseason, and I can't wait to cover them all here. Like, I can't wait to cover them all because this is one of the most important. It was already going to be an important offseason with this draft and focusing on your draft position and the best draft pick possible. So now that we're heading into offseason where the front office, the coach, all this type of stuff could be up in air, this is going to be one of the most important We've never had an offseason where a new front office, potentially a new coach, a top 10 pick, the most cap space in the league, and an open roster. Like, this is almost a perfect storm to really have some significant change for the Bulls' direction. It happened at every level. Coaching, front office, roster, future, prospects. It can all happen all at once. And let's see what the Bulls take advantage of that. I'm hugely excited about what this offseason could bring for the Chicago Bulls. Let's just hope that they don't fuck it up. But with that said, this offseason is about to be more than just moves. It's about direction. Can you find the direction for this team? So are the Bulls finally headed into something more sustainable, or is history going to repeat itself again with the Chicago Bulls team? Let me know your guys' thoughts on that down below. Make sure you guys sign off in the comments as well. Are you trading for Zion, or do you want to see the Bulls stay a little bit more patient? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.